So we're going into the future uh, one moment at a time. It's continuous into the future. But now let's say that you want to go back to the past. Okay, what you have to do is you have to change the direction of the moving particle along the same course back to a point where it was before along the line. Now, if you have some kind of energy so that you can move it back faster, you can speed up or slow down time by the speed of the particle, but moving it back to the past, it has to go back exactly to the same position that it was in at a previous point in time. And that's what going back to the past is all about. Okay, now, so let's amplify this a little bit. Let's add more particles, move more moving particles to our illustration. The more particles that you have in your illustration, the more difficult it becomes to reassemble all of the particles to the exact same position they were at a certain point in time. So, like I say, it is possible for time travel in the physical existence, in this existence, but I hope you can see the logistics of the thing would be extremely, extremely difficult, because you'd have to get all the relevant particles all back to the same place. When you're talking about going back in time, you're not just talking about going back in time or the Earth going back in time. You're talking about stopping the whole universe and reversing the movement, the flow of the universe back in time. You see, you can't just go back to a certain you can't just assemble because of the uniqueness of the particle that you are. You see, you are where you are, and you can't be here and back then. And reassembling all those particles back to where everything was, even to yesterday, would be extremely difficult, because time is not only an event in time, it is also a place in time. And we are constantly moving. The Earth is thousands of miles away from where it was yesterday. See? And it's constantly moving. If you were to try to go back 40 years, I mean, you're talking about restoring the Earth tens of thousands of miles or more. I don't know. I'm not a mathematician. I don't know the exact calculation, but it's a long, long ways. Like if you said you wanted to go back 40 years. Okay, so possible, but highly improbable. It's not going to happen. Can you imagine the amount of energy that it would take? And here's the thing to think about too. In one day, look at how many people die and how many people are born. And you're talking about, let's say, just going back one day in time. Do you believe in the resurrection? Everybody that died in one day is going to have to come back to life. Okay? And all the babies that are born are going to have to be stuffed back into the womb. Figure on that ever happening like that. It's not going to happen. Okay? So, that's the reality of time travel. Anytime you're at a physical level in a physical organization, time is lineal. All right? But now let's go into the spiritual realm. Okay? What about these other dimensions of light that are not physical, that are just dimensions of light? Well, guess what? You can arrange light particles to be anything you want them to be. And if you were able to get into, and I'll talk about how it is possible to do this, if you were able to get into another spectrum of light above this one, you can create past, you can create the memory of all of the events that go on in this life are recorded in the light. And you can recreate past. You can create the future. It would be like making a movie, except that you're the one that's in control. You know, we talk about subjective realism. Does it exist? Well, yeah, it does exist at other levels or other dimensions of light. You see, and that's the beauty of the thing. Like I say, if you can get into those other dimensions of light, create your own past, create a new future, create a whole new universe. One of the ways that you know that you're not in one of these virtual reality levels or dimensions is because you know you are who you are. You see, and you have control of what's going on. If you were to be in one of those other dimensions of light, and you'd be just an actor in one of those dimensions of light while somebody else is controlling your reality. And you would have absolutely no control whatsoever of whatever virtual reality you're in. Somebody else is controlling it. And but as long as you know who you are and you don't have any control of what's going on around you, then you know you're in a physical, objective reality. Okay? But it is possible to get into those levels, those higher levels. There are machines, and if you looked on YouTube long enough, you hear about government experiments to get into those higher spectrums of light. You hear about extraterrestrial craft that pop in and out of other dimensions. Well, there are other dimensions of light, okay, and it does happen. There's I'm sure if you want to look him up, there's a guy, I think his name is Michael Cremo, that talks about being a part of a government experimental program to go back into the past and so on. And not too long ago, I was watching a video by some soldier that said that he was an abductee and that he spent time on Mars, and he would be abducted, and overnight he would live years on Mars, and then just for the night as a child. But he grew up on Mars. On Mars he was an adult. Here he was a child. And he talks about wars on Mars and all kinds of crazy things. You see, whoever was abducting him was taking him into one of these other dimensions of light, and they were creating a new reality for him. See, now once you're there, you can create it, or other people can create it for you. And I watched a video about Billy Meyer where he says that the extraterrestrials that he was dealing with took him into the past to see Jesus. Well, they didn't take him into the past. They created a past for him that was consistent with what he believed the past should have been like, and he created a Jesus that he felt was what Jesus should have been like. But it wasn't true. It was just a virtual reality. It was a reality that was created for him, or that he created with the help of his extraterrestrial friends. Okay? But yeah, when you get into these other dimensions of light, you want to travel into the past? Hey, create whatever past you want. You want to go to a certain point in space, certain point in time in space. You know, call up the history and view it, see it, go it, be a part of it. And you can do that. You have the ability to create at a higher spectrum of light. So when people talk about going into the future and coming back, what were they doing? Well, they somehow or another, they got into another spectrum of light. They lived a whole existence in another spectrum of light, and they came back. So I don't know what about people that have that say that they've only lived in the future, except that maybe, who knows, I don't know how to explain those, but anything and everything is possible in a virtual reality existence in a higher spectrum of light.